Welcome to Rise Up in Business, the law podcast for small business owners. This podcast is designed to share important legal information without the stuffy legal jargon. I'm Tracy Milacrane. Let's get into today's episode. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Rise Up in Business podcast. Thank you for joining me and giving me this time in your ears, especially at this time of year, which typically what we see at this time of year is that crazy energy starts kicking in and things are getting a little chaotic. This time of year inevitably leads to the reflection of the year that's been. Is running your business everything you thought it would be? And there are so many levels to that question, and I want to dive into this today because it's something I reflect on this time of year every year, but it's also something that's coming up for a lot of my clients when we're doing our strategic planning for going forward. And I think in order to plan going forward, we need to take a pause and reflect on what has been. The starting place for me and for the discussions I'm having with clients is, let's take a moment to remind ourselves, what is your why in business? I talk about this a lot on this podcast and I write about it a lot over on the resources page on the website. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see me go on and on and on about this because I think it's really important. What is your why in business? When you are crystal clear on your why and you use it as an anchor in your business journey, it's much easier to navigate the ups and downs and not to become distracted when things don't go according to plan, not to become demoralised, not to become defeated. Taking a moment to reflect on the year that's been, and we ask ourselves, did it go according to plan? And I'll bet you the answer's no, not entirely, because it rarely does. Knowing that that's okay can be really powerful. I want to share a quote with you that I read. It's an Arianna Huffington quote, and she says, "We need to accept that we won't always make the right decisions, that we'll screw up royally sometimes. Understanding that failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of success." And I love that because it's so true. The truth is the business journey is not linear. This was a lesson I had to learn the hard way. I honestly initially thought it would be linear, right down to planning a period of maternity leave with my first child. It is not linear. And it's okay for things to change, and embracing that and being open to it and accepting it is powerful. We learn and we grow. Priorities change, goals and objectives change. It's the growth phase. It's a growth journey. Accepting that things won't go according to plan, but they could go better. Different is not bad, it's often better, can be a game changer. And it has been for me. And I find this time of year in the reflection on the year that's been to be mostly invigorating. So there are some hard truths often that we need to look at and accept, but accepting that can be powerful. And then understanding and owning that failure is not failure, it's part of success. Failure is overstated, in my view. I don't think that there's enough talk in the business space about failure. What even is failure? When we look back at the year that's been and we think, this is what I wanted to achieve, this is where I wanted to be by now, this is what I wanted to do, this is the direction I wanted to go in, just because those things didn't necessarily go according to plan because you didn't tick those boxes, that's not failure. There's this real negative connotation, I think, around when something bad happens, or if you take a different path, or if you didn't tick that box, or if you didn't achieve that goal. But the reality is, it's just different. You know, if we focus on failure, without failure, there's no growth. There's no up-leveling. So without missing that goal or without hitting that target, there's no growth. We don't have an opportunity to learn. I think if we're just talking generically about the term failure, I think it's vital for growth. I think growth is vital for self-awareness and self-development. And I think self-awareness and self-development are vital for being our best selves. And really, isn't that what success is? Being the best version of ourselves in a truly, truly aligned way. I think we need to be really honest with ourselves and really proud of ourselves when we're reflecting on the year that's been. And when we're thinking about our journey as a business owner, we need to be really proud when we are resilient and when we embrace change and when we pick ourselves up when we're feeling challenged or defeated or low, and celebrate that as a success because we kept going and we kept moving forward. The truth is, no great success was ever achieved without failure, and it could be one epic failure or it could be a series of little failures, depending on how you look at it. And the examples I love to reflect on are Edison's 10,000 attempts to create a light bulb. 10,000 attempts, and he kept going. This one's great. Dyson made 5,126 attempts to invent a bagless vacuum cleaner. We all probably have a Dyson. If we don't, we know someone who has. We think they're amazing. I think they're amazing. 5,126 attempts, but they didn't give up because you use the failures or you use the missing the mark on something to inform the way forward. It's necessary. It's a necessary stepping stone to achieve that success. So when you're sitting down to reflect at this time of year, whether it's now or in a few weeks or early in January, whenever it works for you, if you're realising and you're saying to yourself, gosh, this business journey, it's more challenging than I thought. It really didn't go according to plan. This is not where I thought I would be right now. If you're saying that to yourself, what I say to you is congratulations. Go you, because you are doing all the things and you are making a difference and you are on a meaningful journey. And that has to be commended. And we need to acknowledge that for what it is. And we need to celebrate ourselves, because I don't think that there is enough celebrating our wins and celebrating ourselves. I really don't. We are our own worst critic most of the time, and we are hard on ourselves. Take stock, congratulate ourselves, reward ourselves, celebrate where we are. We deserve it. I'm going to talk in next week's podcast about 2023 strategy and how I take my learnings from the current year and put them into a strategy for the new year. So I won't talk about that now, but what I will say is when we're reflecting and we're realising and we're acknowledging our achievements and we're identifying where things didn't go according to plan or where we feel let down, what I say to that is acknowledge what worked, acknowledge what didn't work, and get into the detail. Get into the detail so that we can learn from it, because then we are making the most out of those unexpected situations, out of those challenges. We're making the most out of what we consider a situation or a scenario that went wrong, something that put more pressure on us than we would have liked. If we can learn from that and take as much out of it as we possibly can, we can use it in a really empowering way for strategy to go forward. To wrap up this short and sharp episode, which I think is a really valuable episode for this time of year, I suggest that we remember our why in business. Take a moment to go back to our why in business and to anchor ourselves in our why in business when we're reflecting on what went to plan, what didn't go to plan, and when we're reflecting on how we feel about our business journey this past year. I commend you for staying true to you, staying committed to your why, and for still being here. I commend you, and you ought to commend yourself. I hope you have found some little nuggets of gold in this episode. I can't wait to dive into next week's episode with you when we're talking about strategy and planning for 2023. But for now, pause, take a moment and celebrate yourself. If you know anyone that you think would also value from taking a moment for themselves to reflect on the year that's been in a really positive and empowering way, please feel free to share this episode with them. That's how we help this podcast get into the ears of more business owners so we can achieve our goal of educating and empowering small business owners to back themselves. Thanks so much for listening. I'll catch you next time.